everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to have some fantastic fantasy bug fun. Yes! Woohoo! Okay, I've been looking forward to this one, can you tell, for a while? But I'm going to show you right here how I begin this. I start with teaspoons. So go get your teaspoons if you have them in your kitchen or whatever, and get some tin foil. I also have some Dove, like little wrappers I have, stored back. I hold on to everything, it seems like. Anyways, I'm just going to create this little, tablespoon of tinfoil in this thing. And it's really this is going to be the main body. You don't have to worry about trying to form it in your hands with a solid thing of clay. And I figured too, why waste the clay? Might as well use a little tinfoil, and it makes the body of this bug a lot lighter too. So anyways, I'm just curling up the edges there on that tinfoil, and then we're going to start covering this with some really, it's kind of like a dark blue. I want to say I used my Windsor Fimo clay in this regard, but you could use just a regular dark blue clay. It doesn't matter what kind, just as long as it's dark blue. Anyways, I have this, and then I'm going to bring in also a cane, and this is my Bullseye cane, and I'm creating from my mud clay here a little channel to lay my Bullseye cane down in, so when I cut the slices, it will not warp as I place them onto the body of my bug. Now, as I cut slices from this Bullseye cane, I'm going to place them next to each other on the body of this bug. And then once I get the entire body covered in these Bullseye canes, I'm going to come in with some turquoise clay. I create then a little log of this turquoise, and as I'm rolling it out just a little bit by hand, I'm going to take off little bits of it, and I form them into balls first and then create another tiny little cylinder from it. I push that in between each little area where the bullseyes meet up. I could leave this bug buddy just the way it is. I really could. But I thought, no, I never can just leave it alone, right? So I brought in my knitting needle and I thought, let's go ahead and poke holes. The nice thing about doing it like this is when I go to bake this thing, this gives me an opportunity to put in small pointed back rhinestones into this bug body. It gives it a little bit more flash other than just seeing the pattern of the bullseye cane. Once I get all the holes poked into the bug body, I bring in a ball of black clay that I've already preformed up in my hands, and it has the diameter of about 3/4 of an inch to 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to take that black ball and I'm going to push it onto one side of my decorated body, and I form up the head where it's like, do I want it rounded? You can make it more pointed. It's totally up to you. In this case, it's a little more rounded, and I'm bringing it up off my surface. Yes, there is not clay underneath the body itself, but of course the head will adhere to the surface of your tile. Anyways, as I bring it up and I'm just kind of forming it, I'm going to bring in my eyeball cane, and I do have a video on this, so if you want to go and check that out, you can, on how I formed these little eyeballs. And then when you cut 2 slices and you place them down on the head, you have an automatic eyes right there. Gives it personality right off. And then I decided to take 2 smaller balls. I'm going to place that on the top on either side of where the eyes are at, and then one right in the center and on the side of the head of this bug. I'll then bring in some 22 gauge wire. I'm going to cut those. I'll place that into where those little turquoise parts are. Those would be then the antennas on the bug and the little mouth or the tongue coming out of the bug itself. Once I have that done, I'm then going to bring in some of that dark blue Windsor clay again, and I'm just going to cut out a circle piece, and I need to place that on the bottom side of our bug. He needs to be completely covered, and it's also a nice finishing piece to it. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys just watch my hands talk as I complete up the rest of our first and deer in the headlights bug. All right, so the long lash bug is really going to be featuring my segmented petal canes. And I'm taking some mud clay here and I'm just wrapping the body of this bug in that mud clay. Now I didn't wrap the entire thing, and later you'll see in the others I have left to do, I will wrap the entire thing with the clay on this body. From there, though, I'm bringing in some different segmented petal canes that I've created, and I thought, let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun with this. I could just tailor it all in one particular segmented petal cane, but I thought, no, I have so much. I'm like, no, let's use all the different variety of color we can. And if you have some of your petal canes which are not pointed into or created into that little teardrop point, make sure you do, because that's important when you go to cut these and lay these down on the body. And here's what I mean by that. You're going to take the very top part of that petal, you're going to lay it where it goes right over the edge on one side. And I did this with 4 pieces. Okay, you can add more if you wanted, but I thought let's just go with 4. And then once I had that completely covered, I was like, okay, guess what? Laura's got to add in the mud. This is where I need to add in more mud now. I finally got it in. Yay! Anyways, once I got these petal canes put down, I'm then going to come in with the purple and white segmented petal cane, and I'm going to overlap these particular ones I've already laid down. And I'm going to leave them, how do I put this, raised up. So it's going to be almost a 3-dimensional kind of look. You could see here, I'm placing it just part way over it. I don't completely pat that petal down. I like to have a little bit of dimension when I do this. You know, I mean, why not? You know, might as well have a little bit of dimension. So it's not going to be completely conformed to the body itself. Now, once I do that, I'm going to just start creating rows and rows of different segmented petal canes that will go over this body. And you'll see as I go, the body of this bug becomes more and more 3-dimensional. Now here on the bottom side of this bug, it's mud, right? And I don't want that mud to show through. So I'm covering it a little bit more with a few extra little pieces of my segmented petal canes, just to kind of tie it in so that if I was to look under, because eventually this is going to be covered with another circular disc of solid clay, all right? But I want to make sure that it looks uniform when I put that solid disc or circle piece on the bottom of the body of this bug, and then with the segmented petal canes just kind of disappearing underneath it. Now here I wanted to show you guys the first bug. I had used these off-brand circular cutters, and it was kind of, the circle I used was pretty big. And then I brought in my Atecos because every once in a while I'm like, I don't necessarily want a really, really big piece. I want a smaller piece to use. So I will go back in with each of my different circle cutters and figure out which one do I like best? which flat piece, how big do I really want it? Do I want it that big or not? Do I want to add any extra adornments to it? And that's what I'm going to be doing with this guy. Once I get this circular piece of black though on the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and bake this now at 275 degrees for about, 10 to 15 minutes. And I'm pretty sure some of you are asking, okay, why did she bake it now? The head's not on. Things are missing, right? Well, here's the thing. I wanted to keep that 3-dimensional look on the body, and I didn't want my fingers to push down on those cane pieces. So I went ahead and baked it, and then I'm going to come back in with a little bit of super glue and my liquid polymer clay and put them both there, and then I'm going to push my head onto the body after it's been baked. This way then I can keep that three-dimensional look to my body on my bug here, and I absolutely love that. Now in this particular head, I decided I wanted to go ahead and I made it a little bit bigger. I flattened out that head and so it looks a little bit big, but that's because we're going to be creating a few little, oh, I want to say long lashes onto our bug. And at first, I was going to go with that yellow and purple type, but it was too close to the head, the other cane pieces that were around that, and I thought, no, it's going to get lost. So I took out the purple and white. I thought that would be a good one. And I reduced it down a little bit, and then I pinched the 1 point once more, and then we're going to cut a couple of pieces. And I reduced it down because we're going to bring in not only these two pieces, actually it's going to be 4 altogether. I'm bringing in my eyeball canes as well. So I'll take like 2 pieces and I'm going to mirror it. This segmented cane was one that I thought, let's go ahead and mirror it. It'll look better that way. And so I mirrored the segments together into one giant, almost like a heart-shaped kind of a teardrop, if you will. And you'll notice there I also measured that particular cane. I wanted to show that to you so you understood that the eyeballs are going to go over this. It's going to go slightly over the segmented canes that are put together. All right. This way then you get on the very top where your eyeball is just under it. It looks like little lashes on the bug. Just fun kind of thing right here. I love that. I think it looks so cute. And it's like, oh my goodness. And then you can even fold it up just slightly where they'll stand up on end, and you'll see that on this bug. But just remember, you need to have those segmented canes to be about a similar size to whatever your eyeball cane is. All right, so anyway, with the last bug, I didn't have any kind of little feet on them, and this one I thought we have to rectify that. So each of these little balls or these little cylinders I've just made, they originally started out as a 1/4 of an inch in diameter of a little clay black ball. Now you could go a little bit smaller if you wanted, but part of that, the reason why I wanted them a 1/4 of an inch is I wanted them to be formed into a teardrop, and I need to pull the point a little bit so it's a little long, okay? Because I'm taking a piece of that cane that you saw there and I'm putting it over the bulbous end of that teardrop, and that's going to kind of give a nice feature to our little foot on our little bug. I love that. Yes, he's got little feeties. I just okay. Laura's getting way too giddy here. Anyway, I'm going to create little tiny teardrops like this, and then I'm going to place each one underneath the bug so it'll conform to the bug shape. Because the bug here at this point, I've baked him, okay? I baked him. That's why I'm using my liquid clay, and I'm going to create 6 little dot areas. Yes, I'll add in the little super glue too, because I want to make sure it adheres in. The thing is with that liquid clay is like it doesn't always grab, right? But the super glue will, and then you have, of course, the liquid to help really adhere it well. Once I have these little feet in though, and I've got my, my little poked areas for my antennas on my little bug and for the mouth area, once I have that all together, I'll bake this at 275 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. And remember too, my baking times might be different from yours depending upon the environment you're in. All right, so here I wanted to show you guys something that I developed a while back. I've been making bugs for many, many years, right? And I go to my shows and I was like, I loved selling them, but the problem was I wanted to add a little bit something more to these where people could really enjoy them. So I developed what I call my bug ID cards. Now the one up on the left, I want to say right hand corner there where it says bug ID card, this thing is the size of pretty much a business card. You can make these cards into a little larger size if you wish, and I think actually the best size would be about an index card size. But I wanted to give you an example here, and that's why I blew up the part right in the center so you could see the information that I put onto each of these cards. So the first one is the entomologist's name, which is yourself, of course, because the study of entomology, of course, is the study of bugs and insects. And then you have the order name of the insect. So this next section is pretty much coming up with a scientifically sounding type name. And usually in this context, you have two names to put to it. So if you need to, if you struggle with this, for me, it's not hard. I make up names all the time. I mean, this one was what? Elongipticus lepidoptic. I love that. It's so much fun. You can come up with all sorts of crazy scientific sounding names. But if you struggle with that, go look online and just Google scientific names and you'll come up with some things that you can look at. Oh, okay, this is a good idea. Or you can borrow parts and terms from it to come up with your own order name for your insect. Then after that is the common name. So it's whatever you wish to call it naturally, like this one was the long-lashed bug. And then I put in here also where it's from. I don't like to think that it's going to be here from planet Earth. No, 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 no. Let's use the universe, right? Let's bring in different planets and give them names and have fun with that. And then the next part is the description area or the special abilities of that insect. And I like to let the imagination run wild. So create a little story if you can. I mean, mine was pretty much here. This one was found on an aquatic planet with some small islands. They're dotting the surface of the planet. And then on the shores of these islands, this is where you could find this bug. And that bug gets some water mist on its eyelashes. And when the dew or the water gets too heavy, it drops down to the ground on the shores and it looks like diamonds, or they become diamonds. So use your imagination, come up with some fun stories and names and all that sort of thing. And then if you make a few of these, maybe you swap them with your friends. Or if you've got kids around who are just bored out of their minds, have them make a few of these bugs and then have them come up with where these things come from, what they're named. It's such a fun project to do and they're just absolutely a blast. Okay, the pilot bug I think is really cute. I have a thing with planes. I love planes and I hate them at the same time. I don't like to fly in them. I get way too freaky on that. But when it comes to just flight and being able to soar through the air, I think it's the most wonderful thing anybody could have, right? So I'm bringing in my kaleidoscope canes here. And in this bug, the main feature will be using my kaleidoscopes. Well, you know, the more I looked at it, I thought, I've got a lot of kaleidoscope canes here, but I wanted to stick to one. So I stuck with this one particular cane, and I'm placing each section side by side. Now you'll notice sometimes I don't get a solid cut or a solid piece where it's, you know, part of it kind of came off or deteriorated as I cut down. That's okay, because here's the thing. You just want the pattern to show up. Yes, you want some of them to come off absolutely perfect, but use the pieces to fill in on parts where it's not going to show that much. And it makes such a difference. You use everything up then. You won't have to worry about having any excess. You'll have it all the way throughout. And especially where I get these corners, like these really tight, like triangle areas, I'll bring a piece in, I'll place it in there, and then I'll bring either my scissors or my blade and I'll cut off just that one little section so it'll fit right around and nobody's the wiser. it looks great as you angle it around onto this bug body. Now, once I got most of that bug body, completely covered, I also then cut out a piece of black, which was rolled out on like a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine, and I placed that circular piece on the bottom of my bug like I've done on the others before. Once I have that down, since I did not have any raised areas on this body, I could keep going. So I brought in my Ateco cutters because this time I want to create wings on my bug. And I used a circular, another circle cutter, and this cutter was about the same size as the bug body itself. Once I had that, I cut that circle in half. So this will be 2 wings. And then I was like, okay, what kind of kaleidoscope could I use? I brought in my round kaleidoscopes, and I took one of those, cut a section off, and then took one point of that kaleidoscope and pinched it into a teardrop form. Once I had that teardrop form, I cut off a couple of slices and placed that on top of the turquoise half moon pieces I have down on the surface of my tile here. I place those on top of the turquoise pieces and then come in with another smaller circle cutter, and I thought, let's go ahead and add in another little piece of like a solid color clay to add into these wings. And so that's what I did. Once I get these wings completely together, I'm going to bring up one of those wings, and I'm going to take the point where the purple is at. I'm going to take the point and I'm going to place that on the side of the bug, and I'm going to place it down onto the side where I'm going to have my head, right? I'll have this where, and I like to have it where if my wing sticks up a little bit and up off my bug, you can pat it all the way down, but it's kind of fun when it's 3-dimensional. It gives a little bit more interest, if you will, when you go ahead and create these bugs. And you'll also notice too, I have them pretty far apart. I like to give a little bit of width. This is a pretty fat little bug. And I'm bringing in then my black clay here, another ball for the head on the body of this bug, and just form it around to where you really like it the best. Now, the big thing here is going to be the eyes now on this particular bug. And what I mean is we're going to take 2 slices from that eyeball cane. We're going to place them down, but then we're going to take a little bit of gold clay and I'm going to roll it out into a snake. I'm going to flatten it, and then I'm going to have that sit upright like it's a little pair of goggles around the eye. So I'll do it on both eyes, have the little joining section, and then veer it off into the bug itself. But I could explain this all day long, and yet the best talker is my hands. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk once more as I complete up my little pilot bug. Okay, so I just need to say right now, the stick and leaf bug is probably the wildest thing I ever made in bugs. Oh my goodness. He really was wild. I was like, this was like Groot on steroids, right? I was like, terrible, terrible, terrible. Oh, I know, I know. My movie thing just kind of popped in there. Anyway, I'm wrapping this body, this tinfoil body in my gold clay, and this is actually Kato gold. So I like to use, sometimes I like to use the metallics, and in this case I really wanted to, because I wanted to bring in that very idea of nature, okay? And I thought with the gold it'll offset, and yes, we're going to be using our leaf canes. And I had a number of these. I thought, yes, leaf, definitely, we have to do this. So I decided to do a little tiny design on the back of this bug body using my leaf canes. I had two different types. I had one that was done with a checker involved, and the other one was a lot more plain, but it had the green at the bottom and the white more towards the top. I'm bringing in my little black head, which is 3/4 of an inch in diameter. I'm going to form up this bug overall, and I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk for just a little bit here, and then I'm going to come back in with the really interesting part to this bug that just was wild. Okay, so now I'm back and I'm bringing in my knitting needle, and I want to go ahead and poke in a pretty decent hole on both sides of this bug. I'm also going to put a little tiny ball of brown on the top because we need to mimic a little bit of branches going on here soon. So I'm taking a little bit of a ball here. I'm going to place it at the top of his head. I'm also going to put his eyes on. And once I have those in place though, we're going to bring in my 22 gauge wire. And we're going to take that 22 gauge wire and we're going to snip it into two pieces and twist up two ends of it. Once you have that together, you're going to trim this back a little bit. I want to say the twisted part, make sure you have, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch twisted. And then when it comes to the larger part, or I should say the two extra pieces coming off by itself, you could do that as long or as small, I should say as lengthy or as short as you wish when it comes to those wire pieces. But these are going to be your branches. You're going to bring in your brown clay and you're going to wrap these things in your brown clay. Once you have this wrapped, and I found the best way in doing this, you're kind of wrapping it around the wire. Also, to get it consistent where it looks nice and smooth, I will pull at the top of that branch a little bit. If it's not working for me, I'll mold it around, but eventually I just pull that clay up off the wire and you get a nice fine point, which works great. I left the bottom part, the twisted part, exposed, okay? I want to do that because that's going to go into the bug itself. Now that I have these pieces together, I'm going to bring in those eyes, I'll place those on. I'll then take a separate wire and I'll create a tinier branch. This is going to act as the mouth on this bug, which is really fun. And you'll see later on, I build this thing out pretty big. I eventually decided it was way too big, and so I cut part of it back and only left the very top part of this branch for the mouth, because it just, when you looked at it, you're like going, okay, that tongue is way too big for that particular bug. Especially a branch kind of tongue. I mean, it's just kind of weird, right? Anyways, creating that little branch, And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our leaf canes one more time, and we're going to add these into the branches and then bake these branches separately. Once we have them baked, we'll place them into our bug and complete up the bug entirely. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk once more as I go ahead and finish up more and more of this bug. I'm going to jump in one more time on this particular bug. I need to explain a few more little things, but that will be closer to the end of this section. I wanted to quickly come in here and just say, yes, I used clay slices of leaves for the feet on this little bug, but because the clay slices were a little bit thin, not terribly thin, but they're a thinner piece of clay. I brought in that brown clay once more and formed up a few little balls to go right at the juncture point of where the leaf and the body meet. And then I'll use my knitting needle to poke a little hole in those balls, giving it a little bit more of a solid contact, and also a nice place where if I want to put in a pointed back rhinestone later, I could. I'm also taking and creating some of my little tiny leaves that I usually like to do by hand. And yes, there's a video on that too. So if you want to go looking in my playlists, I'm pretty sure I have it under my miniature flowers section. Anyway, you can go ahead and check that there, or if you want me to, I'll even put a little link in the description area for you. I'm making a few more of these little leaves. I'm going to place them up on a wire, and these are going to be the little antennas for this bug. I just thought just kind of a fun little extra thing for this bug. He'll have the little leaf pointed ends. Anyways, again, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk as I finally complete up my stick and leaf bug. So as you've probably guessed by now, the birdie bug is going to be based on, yes, the feather cane. And I'm bringing in my turquoise clay here, which was rolled out on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. I did rip it off, I run it back through, and then I place it back over on the bottom. So anyways, I'm going to bring in some of my feather canes. I'm cutting slices from them. And just like I did with the stick and leaf bug, I'm going to place a little bit of a design on the back side of this particular bug. Once I get this done, I'm then going to be working on, of course, the head and the antennas and all that. But the main feature to this bug is going to be the wings that I place onto the body itself. So this is the area where I'm going to start creating those wings. And I brought in those teardrop cutters and I went with really the smallest one they had. And I'm cutting out like 2 of these. I'm going to have one, I'm going to have a second one. But I'm going to take another feather cane I had sitting off to the side and I'm going to cut 5 slices from this. I'm going to line them up and then I'm going to place that little turquoise piece right over the top of each of those little feathers all together. They're going to be lined up in such a way that that turquoise piece is not going to go over the entire feather, just a part of it so it looks like it's all attached in one. Once I do that, I'll create that again, except I'll flip it where I make sure it goes the opposite direction so you get the other side of the bug for that wing. And to do that, I place down the other feathers for the next wing right next to the one that I just made. This way then I have a good idea as to, okay, does this look like it's mirroring each other? Because I'm really trying to mirror it as much as possible. I know I'm not going to get it exact, but if I can get at least in the general idea or area of how it looks, then it'd be good. I also took my needle tool there, and you could tell on the first on the turquoise part, I went and used my needle tool to create a few indents on that area. So this way then I thought a little more interest, it'll be fun. I'm going to use my blade though to lift up both of these wings and then I'll kind of mold it onto the body of that particular bug, and I flip this bug over to bake it then because there's no other way to do this. I mean, these wings are they're too thin to just really let you sit it upright in the oven to bake. It'll just curl over. I mean, right here, as you could tell, when I put it onto the body, I was thinking like that. No, I had to fold these up onto the body a little bit, and then I brought my head in because that was going to make a bit of a difference too. Once I have the head and the wings on and I get the holes made for the antennas and all that, one other feature that you're really going to see in creating the birdie bug is, of course, the beak. I mean, he's a birdie bug, right? You got to have a beak, right? So I make a tiny little cone-shaped piece, and then I take my scissors, I snip it right in the middle. I got an automatic beak right there. You don't have to worry about it. So from here, I'm just, again, one more time, I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk as I complete up and create my little birdie bug. So once I got all of my bugs all, baked up and all together and they have their wires in, I decided to come in with all of my pointed back rhinestones and actually a few flat backed ones as well, and just glued them into the areas on each of my bugs that I absolutely liked. All right, so this is the end result of creating my fantasy bugs all in fun. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.